And game number 1 is underway between Gogongsing and Dawn. Gogongsing starting off with his Noxus Spiders deck. The evolution of the Noxus Spiders deck that was originally Elise Darius, ran things like Arachnid Host, has since been cut for things like Crowd Favorite, and this Decisive Maneuver is a new tech to me. Been a while since I've seen the Noxus Spider deck, so that could be standard, but it's new to me now. And the Hecarim coming in, but no copies of the Rekindler, which is not something we usually see in Hecarim decks, but this one playing a little lower on the curve, going for a more aggressive start. And then on the side of Dawn, we have Spooky Karma, although this time no Harrowing and 3 copies of the Ruination. So, looks like a rather aggressive start on the side of Gogongsing. The only 1 drops in the deck, actually the Legion Rearguard and the Precious Pet, so 6 1-drops on his side, as well as a couple of Crawling Sensations. So the Elise going to come down and get us started off here. And Dawn actually opening a pretty wide grip of followers. The Solitary Monk probably going to be the one to come through. In slower matchups, you could play out the Shadow Assassins first to get some draws, then recycle them with the Elusive Monk. But here, the Elusive Monk probably just going to come out first. And Gogongsing deciding if he wants to attack with this Elise. Looks like, nope, not going to go for it. Might want to build up a bit of a board first, as Dawn generally is not going to be running a high number of units in this deck. However, did just happen to see a lot of them. Looks like he might, yeah, he's going to go for the House Spider. And with that Precious Pet off the top, he has the option to evolve the Elise this turn, as Gogongsing, or Dawn rather, going to play the Elusive Monk instead of a Grasp of the Undying. So Gogongsing has a choice here now. He can either attack with everything after he plays this Precious Pet, which will push through 6 damage, and then his Elise gets eaten by this Solitary Monk. Or he can just pass the turn, take the easy upgrade on the Elise, and then every Elise from here on out is stronger. Not going to be bringing them back with the Rekindler like we saw Zixo doing earlier, but Elise strong enough in its own right, especially with so many actual spiders in the main deck between this Precious Pet and House Spider. And Gogongsing, while Elusive Monk is one of the more powerful 3-drop units in the game, not going to be enough to race all of these spiders here from the side of Gogongsing. That is going to get, it looks like, matched by a Crowd Favorite next turn, which does seem a bit stronger if he can get down the Elise evolution. There it goes. It would be the same number of units on board either way, as the Elise would create a spider when she attacked. But Gogongsing deciding that he wants to upgrade, and now a lot of units in the hand of Dawn, but he might have to go for the Grasp of the Undying on the Elise here. Or even a Withering Wail, just to get some of these smaller units off the board. And this Crowd Favorite, you can see the disgust on Dawn's face, not happy with that Crowd Favorite coming down. Thinking he might have to go for a Grasp on the Elise instead of playing a unit here. Which, a little unfortunate, as he does seem to be a little flooded with those. We are still 2 turns off of the Ruination. Good news is, because Dawn has the attack on 6, he can attack, then pass the priority to Gogongsing, because that is how the combat phase works. Gogongsing can play his Hecarim, and then get eaten up by the Ruination. Mark of the Isle not going to do anything here, as Gogongsing does not have the attack token. And Mark of the Isle, a very bad defensive card when you do not have the attack token. So Grasp of the Undying is going to end the turn, and a Vengeance pickup. This Arena Battlecaster probably actually going to force out the Vengeance here, as this is a lot of damage that's going to be pushed through. The Elusive Monk not having a particularly great trade here, and this Frenzied Skitterer coming down as well could actually add a lot more damage. And the Mark of the Isle getting around the Withering Wail. Dawn could actually just die this turn if he goes for the Withering Wail and a value block onto the Arena Battlecaster. This is going to be a little bit too much math for me to do this quickly, but whatever you see on board, +5, potentially +8. Dawn struggling to do the math here. Luckily, I am not in his seat. I am over here doing commentary instead, so I don't have to do the math. I get to just watch the players play it out, and when the little blue eye shows me what it looks like, I will know. But in the meantime, Gogongsing just lining up all of his attacks. Gonna block with a Solitary Monk, and it looks like a Vengeance gonna come through onto the Crowd Favorite. Cannot afford to eat that 7 damage, and this is still going to push through 15. Which means this Mark of the Isle is not lethal, however this Hecarim almost certainly will be, as Gogongsing does not have the attack token on 6, but Dawn no longer has the Ruination mana to deal with this Hecarim, the crowd favorite, threatening too much damage, and these double house spiders going to be pushing out too many units for Dawn to block. Karma not going to get the job done here. Unfortunately, just getting a little flooded on units this game. There's not a whole lot in the deck, but he is going to go for the attack first. Hecarim almost certainly going to come down in response from Gogongsing, and this would have been the perfect Ruination to really swing the game back in Dawn's favor. But as you can see, not super happy about the Hecarim. Kept, or not kept, but had the Ruination in the opening hand to set up for this exact turn, but unfortunately, things working out too aggressively for Gogongsing for the Ruination to come down on the earliest possible moment. And now looking at his hand, understanding that what he has is not going to get it done, needs to draw something off of the Shadow Assassin, and the Rekindler is not what you needed. Unfortunately, the second Shadow Assassin would leave him with not enough mana to do whatever he needed to do to win the game, as Vengeance likely not going to cut it, as this Hecarim is going to get these Spectral Riders on attack with no priority sequence available for Dawn to do anything about it pre-attack. And this decisive maneuver, definitely going to win the game here, as Deny and Withering Wail is not going to be enough to win the game for Dawn, or even keep him alive long enough to try and win the game. Gogongsing haphazardly sipping his water, saying, you know, this is just another day at the office for me. This Withering Wail going to come through and put Dawn at a not-so-healthy -2. Gonna reconsider his options and just take everything back and end the turn so that the animations can play out a little quicker. And that's a quick game one, going over to Gogongsing and his Noxus Spider aggro. Game number 2 underway here between Gogongsing and Dawn. Gogongsing winning game number 1 in a decisive manner with his Noxus Spider deck is going to have to put that one down for this match and pick up a new one, going with the Fiora Shen, a deck that we saw earlier piloted by Ghost. Sorry, couldn't remember the name there for a second. And this one looks a little bit different. Gogongsing electing to go for the Vanguard Bannerman. Still running a rather high number of Ionia cards. Has 7 in the main deck with 1 Shen, 3 Shadow Assassin, 2 Deny, and a Key Guardian. And Dawn going to be sticking with his Karma deck. Ruination in the opening hand once again. But there's a Deny pickup from Gogongsing, going to take that Ruination off the table for the most part at any opportune time, that is, as it is going to be a while before Dawn has the mana for a Ruination and Deny play. Although you could always get Gogongsing to tap out pretty easily, as these decks do tend to play on curve a lot, and Deny going from 3 mana to 4, definitely going to shine here as you try to get down a timely board wipe. Now, Gogongsing could play the Bright Steel Protector, push a little bit of damage on the next turn. Dawn himself having nothing to do, as he is a very reactive deck, and it looks like it's going to be the Key Guardian onto the Fiora. Just accelerate the card draw a little bit, pick up a Riposte. Could come in handy later against all of the damage-based removal coming out of this Shadow Isle deck between the Withering Wail, Vile Feast, and Grasp of the Undying. The Fiora here not wanting to play a Shadow Assassin into it, as Gogongsing would be able to just gobble it up for free with that barrier. And Gogongsing, considering not attacking, looks like he is just going to pass, doesn't want to give Dawn an opportunity to play anything, just make him float the mana. So Gogongsing showing a lot of restraint in this matchup, not wanting to have to deal with a Solitary Monk or something like that coming down afterward, as he doesn't have a clean way to get something like that off the board. He does now that he has picked up the single combat, has a barrier spell, but did not have that last turn, so a Solitary Monk seemed a lot more threatening. Shadow Assassin coming down on the side of Dawn, getting another Shadow Assassin, and a Shadow Assassin coming down for Gogongsing as well. Actually worth noting that if Gogongsing did attack on turn 3, the Shadow Assassin would have drawn the Deny, which meant a Shadow Assassin draw for turn on turn 4. So Gogongsing electing to pass that attack actually did slow down Dawn, as otherwise he would have had 2 Shadow Assassin on board here and be another card deeper. Gogongsing wanting to hold on to his Shadow Assassin and get a wide board, as he does have the Vanguard Bannerman in hand. Could play one this turn. Or he could go to continue to build up the board, play up Bright Steel Protector, potentially eat this Shadow Assassin with his Fiora. We shall see. We shall see. Gogongsing, thinking it over, is going to go for the Bright Steel Protector onto the Fiora, not wanting to put it on the Shadow Assassin for an attack, perhaps going to eat the Shadow Assassin with the Fiora. Also thinking over his options. Obviously, Dawn going to pass, not wanting anything new to get eaten, and Gogongsing going to pass right back, showing a lot of restraint in this matchup, not wanting Dawn to get something like a Karma down after he has attacked with the Fiora, instead saying, I don't care about your life total right now, I will kill you with a very wide board later on, I don't need this at the present moment. So Dawn, thinking about his turn here, could just attack with the Shadow Assassin relatively for free. This isn't a bad Ruination turn, especially get to attack, there's no blocks, he's going to play a guy, it's the Vanguard Bannerman, and a whiff! Oh, a big whiff for Dawn, or for Gogongsing rather. You can see the disappointment on his face, which actually does make the Ruination that much more appealing here, as you do know that there is an Ionia card on top of Gogongsing's deck, with the Key Guardian already gone and a Shadow Assassin on board. There is a really good chance that it's a deny, so could be reading a deny here and not want to play the Ruination anyway. Could just throw some damage-based removal at the board as it didn't get buffed, this Grasp of the Undying. Gonna go for this Fiora here, which could get the deny out of Gogongsing's hand, or he could go for the Riposte. Either way, I'm not thinking he's gonna let this one resolve. It is going to be the Riposte going down onto the Fiora. Could see a Vile Feast come out of Dawn in order to clear the barrier off of that and let the Grasp go through and actually kill it. Nothing for 1 mana could save it out of Gogongsing. But instead, actually just going to pass from Dawn, going to let that Riposte trade for the Grasp of the Undying and say the Fiora can live. I care more about keeping this Vile Feast and my 1 spell mana. Second Vanguard Bannerman going to come down. This time, Demacia card sitting on top of his deck, going to buff up the board. Dawn looking a little troubled now. Can't expect this not to resolve though. And a Ruination is now going to come out. Seems a little bit weird knowing that there was an Ionia card on top of Gogongsing's deck, and he's going to play the deny from the top of his deck. Let him know you should have seen this coming. There was an Ionia card, you knew that, and it was the deny that you feared. Ruination not working out for Dawn in either game 1 or 2 so far, and this is going to be a big push from Gogongsing. Looks like the Mark of the Isle will go onto the Shadow Assassin to trade with the Fiora, but it's still 15 damage coming through. And Dawn, you know, the restraint from Gogongsing showing off here a little, or paying off here a little bit rather, as he said, I don't care about the early damage, I can kill you later on, and he is proving that to be true, thanks to the deny from his opening hand, as well as the second one picked up off the top of the deck, still in a very safe spot to just try and push things out. A clear board for the side of Gogongsing. Every unit he plays this round is going to be matched by a unit from Gogongsing, playing the War Chefs first, holding up deny in case of anything particularly spooky coming out of Dawn with his remaining 5 mana. But Dawn gonna play the Skitterer, putting him down to 2 mana, does make it a lot safer for Gogongsing to get this Radiant Guardian down. And Dawn not safe to attack with anything here, as there are value trades galore, even on the Shadow Assassin. Skitterer putting it down to 2 attack, still has 3 toughness. That's going to be a pass over to Gogongsing, and Karma once again coming a little bit too late on the side of Dawn. Unfortunately, this looks like it's going to be lethal attacks, and there's nothing Dawn can do about it. You hate to see it. It's turn 9, and the control deck has 9 cards in hand, but unfortunately just not finding the time and tempo to play out everything that he wanted to. So War Chef's going to buff up the Shadow Assassin. Dawn going to line up his blockers. I haven't quite run the numbers on whether or not he can survive this in any capacity. Almost certainly not going to be able to survive through this deny and back-to-back that Gogongsing has, and has the mana to play both of them, sitting on the 9 and 1 spell mana. The math I can do is that 4 plus 6 is 10 and 9 plus 1 is 10, which means that deny and back-to-back will be coming through. So, absolutely no way that I can see Dawn surviving this given his hand. The double Vile Feast's not particularly useful. The double deny should be useful against the denies, but not coming down in a timely fashion. Ruination Deny is a 10 mana, or a turn 10, 13 mana play, so unfortunately that is the big deny target for Gogongsing, and not going to be able to get denied back in a timely fashion by Dawn. So Gogongsing lining this up, going to play the back-to-back so that Dawn doesn't survive at 1, and that's going to be Gogongsing taking a very quick 2-0 lead over Dawn here in the round of 16 Group A tournament for this Korean Invitational. Here we are at match point for Gogongsing versus Dawn. Potential to be the first 3-0 here in the Group A round of 16. Gogongsing, having won with his other two decks, is now forced onto his Elnuk Ezreal deck. Going to be a little bit different than the Heimerdinger Ezreal deck that we saw come out of Pegasus a little bit earlier, as this one is just all in on the Ezreal with the Elnuks, gets to run a lot more units. I'm a big fan of the Elnuk adaptation of this deck, as it does sometimes just shine in the control matchups like this, where Ezreal used to struggle because you wouldn't have enough targets to come down early on. You could play an aggressive game with these 3-1s, but generally it just didn't work out. People even started to keep Vile Feast in the matchup just so that that option was off the table, whereas normally it wouldn't be very valuable. Now, there is a lot of life gain coming out of this Karma deck. Not as much as I'm accustomed to seeing, as there is no health potion in the list, but enough that he should be okay to survive the actual Ezreal. And Gogongsing, realizing this, going to throw down the Iceveil Archer to get aggressive. Any amount of damage that you can get through with units usually feels like cheating in the Ezreal deck, which is why the Elnuks feel so good. Speaking of Elnuks, Troop of Elnuks going to be a pickup here from Gogongsing, feeling pretty good about that since he will have the attack token on 5. The best answer to the Elnuks being Ruination, which Dawn has had not a lot of success with so far in this tournament, but is still packing the 3 copies. Could find that as an answer, depending on how much comes off of this Troop of Elnuks. Could just be a 5-mana 3-3. Could pull every Elnuk out of his deck. We will see in a few turns. In the meantime, this Emerald Awakener coming down, and it is going to get Thermogenic Beamed. There is the chance for a Mist's Call on it. However, it is not out of the question for Gogongsing to have more removal in his hand for it, as Thermogenic Beam is something that you usually want to play early anyway. Get the least amount of mana off of it, as you want to save up some spell mana. And the Shadow Assassin, likely to come down next turn, might be saving the Mist Call for the Shadow Assassin so that he has a blocker for the Ezreal. Some of the shortcomings of the control decks in recent memory was a lack of way to actually deal with the Ezreal if it came down early. The Mystic Shots on your face add up relatively quickly, even if they're not racking up Ezreal towards the evolution. The Shadow Assassin going to come down, get a Solitary Monk. Generally, you like to see that in the other order, but in this matchup, depending on how this Troop of Elnuk shapes out, they could just Solitary Monk for the Shadow Assassin again in order to get some draws. Unfortunately, Double Deny not in a position to get a lot of value. The mana efficiency of Deny in this matchup is usually pretty low unless you can get it. Oh my gosh! The Troop of Elnuks coming up huge for Gogongsing, pulling 3 Bull Elnuk out of the deck, and that is way too much for a control deck to deal with. You can see Dawn head in hands in the lower corner, Gogongsing popping off in the top right, and this is why you play the card. This is the adaptation that has been made by these Ezreal decks, and sometimes you just win the game like this. And the Bull Elnuk not even feeling bad, it's just a vanilla 4-5. Chillwind Yeti was one of the best cards in Hearthstone beta. Games were determined by how quickly you could get out of Chillwind Yeti. Here we have the same thing, with this Troop of Elnuks coming down and pulling out 3 Bull Elnuk. That's an insane amount of damage coming through for Gogongsing. This man seems to just be a master of finding these extremely quick wins. And 3 4-5s. He needs a Ruination off the top, and even then he's in a really rough spot, as an Ezreal will come down the next turn. That gets traded out for the Grasp of the Undying. That's not a Ruination, which means these Bull Elnuks are going to stick around and continue to deal a lot of damage. He's going to have to deal with them the old-fashioned way, and the old-fashioned way is dying to them. You can see Dawn in the bottom left, not particularly pleased with his situation, moved on to acceptance very quickly though. We are going to see the Avarosan Archer come down, take out that Frenzied Skitterer, and Karma gonna have to give him something real good to survive all of this. The Ezreal coming down as well. That's an insane amount of damage on the side of Gogongsing. He looks a little worried for a man with 14, 16 damage on board because of that Ezreal. And he has so much burst in hand as well. 2 Mystic Shot and a Get Excited with double progress data refuel in what is typically not a great matchup unless something like this happens. Everything is going right for Gogongsing. There's another Ezreal picked up, and he has game in hand just through all of the burn spells that he has, coming in with the huge attack. I cannot express how much I love and hate Troop of Elnuks for exactly this reason, and that's going to... I don't even know if Dawn can survive this if everything goes right. So a Will of Ionia onto a Bull Elnuk, a Grasp of the Undying onto the Ezreal. He doesn't have the mana for all of this, so it is just going to be a Vile Feast onto the Marksman. And then I would assume a Will of Ionia onto a Bull Elnuk. Comes out to 7 damage between the Bull Elnuk, the Ezreal, and the Mystic Shot created by the Ezreal. But Gogongsing has 3 more Mystic Shot in hand, saving himself the deny mana for the Mystic Shot. Unfortunately, Gogongsing going to play this out for him and say, look, there's more Mystic Shots where that came from. I don't need the one that this Ezreal creates. And the 2 Mystic Shot going to come and be the final nail in the coffins for Dawn's tournament life. What a way to go out. Unfortunate as it is entertaining, that is for sure. So Dawn going to throw a deny at one of these Mystic Shots and then die to the Mystic Shot created by the Ezreal. Gogongsing, a merciful god, going to put him out of his misery before that comes down. And Dawn just counting out these Mystic Shots. Just coming to grass with the RNG being against him this time around. Going to give the good game, and Gogongsing going to put down his water and give the good game in real life. And that is going to be the end of the tournament for Dawn. Gogongsing picking up the quick 3-0 here in the top 16 of this Legends of Runeterra Invitational.